Number one, corruption. Changing the game. And I mean, I did a logistics company about, I think it was October or November, where they said their trucks were being held up for 3 days on the Mozambican borders where some of their competitors went straight through. Becomes very tough. And obviously, I think there are some little green flags going up on corruption because over the last few weeks, we've been talking a lot about it. So is the Constitutional Court. And I think the status of the public protector has been enhanced. So, you know, there are some green flags that are beginning to arise on this one. But you've got to watch it as a business. The second flag is around our quality of infrastructure, because everybody agrees that if we do not have quality infrastructure, we're not going to grow our economy, because it is the platform. And it doesn't just apply to physical infrastructure like roads and ports, it applies to education and health. You've got to have a decent infrastructure to grow your economy. Again, there are some green flags. I personally think Eskom is a green flag. I think Brian Molefe has brought a new spirit to Eskom, and that the big projects like Medupi and Kusile are now back on track. But as one CEO said the other day, in parts of the country, you don't drive on the left of the road, you drive on what's left of the road. And this is serious, because you know, everybody criticizes SANRAL because of the e-toll system, but at least our major roads are in pretty good nick, and long may it remain so. The third flag they refer to is around leadership, that we really do need leadership, which brings this country together, because if the world economy is in bad shape, we've got to operate as a team. And the last thing we want is to become more divided. I mean, Nelson Mandela did a great job of reuniting this country. I had the privilege of seeing him in prison because he'd heard about my the high road, low road scenarios. And I had 5 hours one-on-one with the great man in Victor Verster when he was in a little cottage. And he blew me away with the spirit of reconciliation. And he certainly showed that when he became president. And I certainly feel that he did a great job. Unfortunately, his 2 successors haven't come close. And a flag is, you know, what is the next generation of leadership going to be like? I mean, just one statistic. 50% of our population was born after 1990. 50%. And so it's young leaders who are beginning to appeal. And I'm afraid to say, if you look at the ANC leaders, they're not young. They're a bit like me. Struggle generation. And they need some credible young leaders. The fourth flag is a green one. It's around our pockets of excellence and whether we replicate them or whether we dumb them down. We have 28,000 schools in this country, of which 5,000 are reasonable to excellent and 23,000 are dysfunctional to shocking. How are we going to use the good schools to raise the quality of education in the bad schools? What we must not do is to dumb the good schools down. Any flags which indicate that would be really bad flags for South Africa, and it applies at universities and business schools and everywhere, that particular flag. The last flag is around entrepreneurship and the growth of small business, and it's related to a global flag I talk in the book, which is the nature of work has changed. I grew up in a global economy when hundreds of thousands of people worked in big factories, but mechanization has taken that all away, and the employment model in this century is totally different to the last century. And if you want to create jobs, you've got to realize that this flag is in play. Do you know that Uber is now in the top 20 Australian employers? Uber. And it isn't classical employment. Each person has his car, he's a business, but he has a network, and it works very well. Airbnb, exactly the same. You own a house, you can rent a room out on Airbnb. I personally think that we want to create one 5 million jobs in South Africa. We've got to create 1 million new small businesses, and they're going to be networked like Uber or Airbnb.